Hey everyone, just a mini update here. Got it in last night. Decided to start disassembling a little bit. Mainly took off this valve cover to start. You can see the big old hole that guy put in it when he was trying to get that turbo off. Headlights I do have, they're completely shattered. So I don't know if the guy just got angry and started swinging or what, but there's a lot of broken bits. But the good news was, when we pulled the valve cover, got a lot of the pieces of plastic that were inside of it out, so we still have to flush it. But the main thing was, once we got that off, pulled the turbo out, we were able to actually get it to crank over, and it cranked over really smoothly. Used some welding rod, put down in the cylinders, checked piston 1 and 4 at the same height, so we're 2 and 3, so that's all a good sign that there's nothing wrong with the bottom end of the motor. Granted, there could be rings or something like that, but it cranks and turns over, so I'm hoping the motor is actually okay. Down here you can see some other carnage. Let me look. Yep, so here's a piece of the boost controller on the turbo that has broken off. Down here you get to see some wire nuts, which is always fun to see house wiring stuff in cars. Oil is fairly dark, but when cranking it did pump out the turbo feed, so that is also good. Along with the turbo, I did find a broken banjo bolt that was in the CHRA, so I was able to extract that. Went further though and decided to look at the turbo and actually inspect it. So he had separated it, the compressor and the turbine housing and the compressor housing from the CHRA, and it was just, you know, you have your turbine wheel, and this one is jacked up, and that was just resting here while he was hitting with a hammer and bouncing all around and causing all sorts of damage to this thing. Impeller side looks good, so I mean that's a good sign that this motor hasn't eaten anything fun through the intake. So just to be safe, I picked up 2 more turbos. This one's a newer one that is also off of an N18 motor. And then I have this guy and this manifold, which are off of an older N14 motor. So I got to figure out the differences between those. But I think between all 3 of these turbos, I should be able to get something functional and fairly cheap. Boost control solenoid has got a connector on the end of it. So unlike this one, that's one less thing for me to have to worry about. But overall, like I said, I'm happy the damage seems fairly limited to the turbo. You can see these studs are all sorts out of whack. So that guy really had a good time wailing on this thing. And if, you know, I believe what he says, and that it was all in search of an exhaust leak that he was trying to fix, it's kind of a shame to put that anger out and start smashing. So just a word of advice, and something I've noticed working on cars, is that if you do get to the point where you're frustrated or you don't think you have enough room to do something, you know, look around. There's things you can move, create some room, take a breath, and let that fall on the ground. But basically just take a step back. Don't go hammering on things. It's always worth taking the extra time to give yourself the room to work. It'll save so much frustration that it really is worth the time. Half the time you end up breaking something or causing problems, or apparently this guy seems to have really gotten mad and just started smashing. Overall though, car still looks really good. Finding some cool stuff on it here and there still. Don't know if it's got a tune on the ECU. All this looked like it had some vinyl on it and then was plastidip. The roof is plastidip and looks horrible, so I got to figure out a good way to get plastidip off. Back here, I got some parts that came with the car. 3 downpipes, an NM Engineering exhaust, and this other piece of exhaust. Interior, I've pulled a lot of the random stuff that's been floating around out. And it still looks really good in here. I don't know if this is a factory wheel and factory trim or anything, but overall, inside this car is pretty beautiful other than the nuts and bolts and dirt everywhere. Sunroof and everything works, which I didn't know if it was a problem or not, but I checked it anyway. Driver's seat appears to be the only other thing that's got a problem, and it's just a little tear in it. If I want this thing to look perfect, I'd like to get that fixed. But overall, still very happy with the purchase. Trying to figure out, you know, what else I need to order, but as of right now, it looks like it's limited to a valve cover, fixing a turbo, hooking up a downpipe. Maybe I'll just get a high flow catted one or just weld on a new cat. And then fix whatever the hell's going on down there with those wire nuts, because I'm not cool with those. But other than that, really happy with the car. Love the color. Got to go through some more of these parts over here and see how that's going. I don't want it to take a ton of time away from the Miata though. That the engine bay is going well with. So I'll just give you a little update on that as well. Everything's pretty smooth. There's just a few rough edges I want to sand down and maybe do one little final pass of either glaze or filler on it. And then the engine should be back from the machine shop soon and I can start building that. But I've obviously got this distraction. So I'm going to see what I can get done on this as quickly as possible while I'm waiting on the engine for the Miata and finishing the engine bay. Obviously I don't want to be sanding and stuff with this wide open. But it looks like I will throw a valve cover at it, put on a turbo, bolt this thing all up and see if I can get it to start. And I mean, if it fires and starts, that's, you know, part of the journey. A lot of the stuff, like there's a little vacuum nipple here that I got to figure out what it goes to. I'm just really unexperienced when it comes to these R56 Mini Coopers. So any advice, greatly appreciated. Like I said, I do know minis. I've had a few R53s, but these are the ones I've always told people to stay away from, just because of the problems of the N14 motor. So kind of lucked out the N18. Maybe it's better. I know it's got some revisions, but I still hear quite a few horror stories. So, I mean, thanks for hanging with me to the end, and hopefully, you know, we'll make some progress on this thing, and I'm going to get parts here as soon as I can and spend about an hour or two every night. And depending on how long it takes to get parts, I want to get this thing cranking and possibly a shot at running, I would say, probably by the end of next week or the following week, depending on how work is. But thanks again, everybody, and appreciate your support. And let me know if you guys have any ideas on how to remove Plastidip, how to fix a lot of the small stuff on this car that I have no idea about. Also, if you know how to figure out whether or not this ECU is tuned, I don't know if it's flashable or not. I'm assuming it is. If there's a good, easy way to check that, it'd be nice to know as well. But thanks again for everything. Let me know if there's anything else I need to check over. I think I'm going to probably rebuild those turbos, get some new seals and everything, and put those together as well while I'm in here. I just don't want this to turn into a while I'm in here and, you know, absolutely rebuild everything. But thanks again, and hope you guys had a good day.